En vivo, ya empezó. Okay, we're live. Welcome,
Live.
everybody. We're excited here. Let's check this. Hi, everyone. I'm Mauricio. I'm Mauricio Jaimes. I'm here today, as we promised, to discuss about what is going to be the landscape of the real estate in Colombia post elections. This was a question that I posted in groups in social networks, just because there is a concern. We are in an historic, I say, a crossroad, because it's the first time that, I mean, really, left type of government is with the for the first time in the, I think, is in Colombia, uh, uh, with the possibilities of be the next president. We currently have normally we used to have the same like style or type of government, in some degree with social, uh, uh, let's say, pointing some importance, or making difference, emphasizing in the social development. But at the end, it was always a free market type of government, a capitalist type of government. And now we are with the situation that there is another type of another possibility, a big chance for the candidate of the with a left, uh, let's say, point of view, and also different from the other type of candidate. We are like in polarization, like many of the world. So well, and that's what one also of the things that I wanted to share with you, because here it's a matter also. This discussion is also in companies, in workplaces and families. Yeah, we see that not everybody has the same or agree about the same things. So that's why I wanted to start posting this, and also for the foreigners who are in Colombia, the ones who look for us from the outside, or the ones that are investing in Colombia or planning to invest, and have been invested for many years in Colombia. So that's the idea of this presentation, of this panel. So I wanted to introduce my guest. my my guest is Jorge Jaimes. He has a degree in economics and political science from the University of Andes, so to speak. That he's my son, and he already is been working in the public and private sector, and well, he has also the points of view of many of the, or let's say, the half of the electoral population that is now facing for this election. So the idea and the dynamics of the presentation is going to be, I'm going to show some of the current status of the real estate market, what is being so long for this couple of years from now, and then I'm going to give the word to Jorge in order to also present what is the point of view of how will be the real estate market, even if there is a new government with this type of political point of view, and see what also the questions that we saw in the post we had. We have many different questions, and we hope that at the end we can also cover all these concerns, these opinions, and see what is going to happen. So, hi Jorge, please introduce yourself and give us your insights about what you're gonna uh, also discuss here.
Okay, thank you, Mauricio. That very glad to be here. I'm happy that we're doing this exercise. Well, for the first time in public. and in English. And so those are two things that are changing, and I know we're gonna do our best. But I'm glad we prepared good topics to discuss in this presentation. Again, I'm glad we're doing this exercise and that we open this space for the discussion, because in this juncture it seems like we need some more cold minded analysis and dialogue between different points of view. So let's get it into it.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna start sharing of one of the. Uh, I'm gonna start talking about what is the current status of the real estate market in Colombia. Now that we see how the things are evolving with the housing politic or housing policy, sorry, in the last years. I'm gonna show you one of the things that we have seen in the last two governments, I would say, in the latest 10, 8 years, is that there is been an impulse for the subsidized housing, and this has been also pulling the real estate industry in general. And I have this graphic. This is from Camacol. Camacol is the Chamber of Commerce of Constructions, so it's a private organization. Let's say that gathers all the builders, all developers in Colombia, and we see that despite the pandemic, we experience an increase in housing sales over from 2020 to 2021, even the highest amount of sales in the latest years. This is driven because of this subsidized policy that the government is making, that is giving the subsidies to the people with a policy that has around, I would say, 10 years or more, 12 years, the last two governments, and this was maintained, and it helped to drive the not only the construction market and the real estate market, but also the economic market. Uh, Construction was one of the first, or I would say, was one of the only industries that has that was allowed to work during pandemic. That was one specific thing that because it includes a lot of labor jobs. So we see that, for example, we ended 2021 with 239,000 sales of housing, basically divided in the subsidized and the not subsidized type of housing. This is a graphic that also explains by regions how the movement is being with this. This is up to November 2021, but it shows what is the variation in different regions. For example, we're talking about Antioquia, where is Medellin located. Uh, it remains one of the highest increases in sales. We see a decrease in places like Bogota, for example. It was not as high as we expected. And other important, for example, at the coast, in Bolivar, where it's Cartagena, and other markets were increasing, like the amount of sales. Is have to show that it's not only the big cities that was the one that are having this increase in sales, but also in small and medium cities. We can see also this is a graphic that shows what are the type of the amount of projects initiated in over the years, and we see that, for example, 2021 was one of the best years in the last 5 6 years, in the amount of housing that were initiated or were started to construct. So that's what's driving the market That's what also giving an active, yeah, I would say it was driving what the market was moving in all the sectors, no? Because when people can buy a property, they put it to rent, they put it where they use it to live. So it also helps to move the economy. So that's what on the positive things that has the construction and the market. I'm gonna show another interesting graphic, and that is the property valuation in different markets. We see that, for example, Quindío is the region of the coffee axis. Yeah, is where is Armenia, Pereira, Manizales. It had the highest increase in rate for the valuation. We see that, for example, Bogota, people, the pandemic also drive the movement of people to other cities because of this, of the remote work. So people who were initially living in Bogota were moving to another regions. And that was shown in, for example, the increase of property on the markets like Quindío. For example, Cundinamarca is outside all the markets outside Bogota. That is the towns like Cajicá, Chia, Sopó. These are places where you can find country houses. So it also drive these markets around the cities. So that's interesting to know. For example, in this case, I also wanted to show this graphic because it shows how many people is involved in the labor for buildings and for development. So I think it's important to know that construction drives one of the or provides one of the most jobs for the people. So it also helps to increase the economic PIB, the PIB. Yeah, so that's also important to know, and that's what I'm saying, that the things that we're moving now, the real estate market, are like strong, but again, I'm going to show this graphic comparing to Latin American markets, for example. We keep with the lowest price per square meters. This is a study that was taken with one of the most important property portals, and we see that Bogota. This is a compare that was made for a 60 square meters apartment in the main Latin American cities, and we see that Bogota is still the lowest price per square meter. This is in dollars, and that's interesting to know that we could keep being competitive against other Latin American markets. What is happening now the first quarter of 2022? Yeah, this is data also from Camacol. 63,500 housings were sold in the first quarter. It's supposed to be also an increase of 7% for this year. We expect to end in 267 housing sales. And curiously, well, March has the highest month in sales, but April started to show the lowest or a decrease because the conjuncture of the election. So we see that the market had this cycle normal of elections. I think over the last 20 years before an election, everything gets slow. But again, the idea is to know what is going to happen and what are the structural things that we can see in the local real estate market, whatever is the future of the next type of government. I see that also challenges for 2022 would be, for example, the cost of materials, the international cost of materials. We see that the iron is having an increase in price. There is a short supply and here we have some restrictions to import, and this is something that also developers are talking with the government, and would be also some important issue that the next government is going to have if they will continue to keeping these restraints against other markets, or it's going to be closed, or it's going to open a little bit. Again, the inflation is another thing that we are experiencing here in Colombia, but not only in Colombia. This is um, international phenomenon, so it will also be a challenge to manage. Also, the cost of money that's derived from inflation. We see that now the Banco of República is starting to increase the interest rates for the mortgage, and also gonna impact in the housing market. Also, the international environment. We see that well, the war in Ukraine, the economic developments in the U.S. This are the thing that will affect also the internal market, and at the end, the political change. So that's something that we have to face for this 2022. Yeah. Uh, that's the current like general scenario. Yeah. I would like to turn to Jorge in order to give us here impressions about what is going to be the structural thing that is going to have in the economics in Colombia. So I'm going to
Thank
turn
you.
to you.
Okay, so I have this presentation too that I prepared. Thank you. So to discuss Colombia's socioeconomic overview. So this is more like an approach from the economic point of view, but also from the social point of view. So what to expect from Colombia's upcoming elections. So first of all, I would like to start off with some basic premises, some basic points of agreement, if you will. You can disagree with them, it's okay, but we're going to start from here to unravel the discussion and to approach later on the comments and questions from the people. So the first premise is that Colombia's political, institutional, and economic profile is only its own. This means that this doesn't mean that it is unique in the world, but it does mean that it has certain features that we're going to talk about and that we want to stick to, so as not to get too complex or deep in comparing comparatives with other countries in the world, from other regions, with other historical processes and so on. So this is the first one. The second one is that there are two possible political scenarios for the next electoral period. And these two are, well, change or continuity. So either of the candidates you associate both of these scenarios with, well, it doesn't matter for this premise. What matters is to accept that we have either a continuity of the political process that has been going on, as Mauricio said, for almost the last 20 years, or a change in that political scenario. And linked and related to this is the third one that says that pre-electoral political noise, mediatic, heat, if you will, it does not equal to post-electoral institutional apocalyptical outcome or sudden change. This refers also that or confirms that you have some situation when elections are coming that is very loud in the press and in the media and what you hear from people. But a different thing is what institutions and actual context, economic wise and social wise, allows you to do. So starting from these three premises, I'm going to go to the historical, political, and institutional profile of Colombia, which, to my point of view, is based on three main edges. The first one is a democratic tradition, which refers to a situation where the state has always been the scenario of political struggle between partisan factions represented by regional elites that are associated with political parties through networks, complex networks of loyalties, patronage, uh, relationships, and that's been a matter of study for political science in Colombia for many years. But we're not going to get too deep into this. Main things: there is a strong partisanship, there are regular elections, there is political accountability, and there is and has been for most of the Republican life of Colombia, power division, established power division. The second one is institutionalism or institutional stability. That refers to, as I said, there's well established and hard to change rules of the game, both formal and informal. So, as I mentioned, there is an elite with many factions that has historically shared power and pulled the strings of political game in Colombia, but it has done so through very strong, although maybe not always so efficient, institutions, which are what I mentioned before: political parties, patronage networks, and media control, a notion of a higher power that is maybe God, or a higher law that is definitely the Constitution, or a higher authority that is the state. So during practically all of its Republican history, in Colombia, the functions and the distribution of state powers have been maintained in accordance to these institutions that have not been very volatile. And the third one is fiscal policy. I was struggling to know what to put here, but ultimately it refers to, or it comes down to, tax income, because Colombia has expenditure needs. I had this professor actually in college that said that even if angels came down to govern this country, the first thing they would ask for is more money, because every government needs more money. And Colombia, because of its constitution, has high and rigid spending commitments. And with that, it comes corresponding responsibility of revenue, of tax collection, right? So there is an indispensable need for more money, because we have social needs, we have many things. So these three main edges are what, to, in a simplified way, add up to what the country's profile is. Okay, so now to what interests us the most, that are Colombia's investment prospects. So I made this conceptual map to, well, provide an easier way to approach it, but with rich value in terms of academic and analytical framework. So here we have two pillars. Let's say we're going to have two pillars, two essential pillars. One is social cohesion, where this is almost all determined internally, how the country performs in his internal activities, and this reflects in variables such as security, poverty, inequality, corruption, and so on. On the other hand, you have this other pole, or this other pillar, that's the economic cycle. Now, the economic cycle really runs by the games and the rules of the economic cycle, that are expansion, you have peak, then you have contraction, and then you have trough, or recession, or depression, depending on the magnitude. And this goes on in a cyclical pattern, right? Here you have, if you will, if you accept my theory, two aspects that are what determine it. One part, let's say half of it, is determined externally with variables such as oil price, exchange rate, trade balance, and so on, which the country does not have a lot of control over. And the other part is really determined internally. So, as I said, these variables of employment, inflation, public finances really talk about what the performance of the country and of the government and the functioning of the state concerns, right? So here, I would argue that we have one variable that is a really good proxy to know what stage of the economic cycle we are in, what stage of this four that I mentioned. And I would say there's this theory that this is the dollar rate. So how the dollar is behaving tells a lot about which stage the world's economic cycle is in, right? So we could see that the stage in which the developed economies are getting into, and conversely, emerging economies are, because this happens. I mean, when you have particularly liquid currencies like Colombia's currency that are really strongly oil driven, then you have one economy that behaves like a reflection of developed economies and mainly the US economy. So knowing when the pro-USA cycle would end and when the adjustment or the correction of for a more favorable cycle to the rest of the world is a fundamental aspect for prospects in investments in countries like Colombia. And I would say that is the current stage we are in. We're heading into one adjustment of recession in US economies and developed economies. And these countries, emerging economies that became cheaper during the last stage, are now going to get very attractive for investment. So main point here is that Colombia society holds the performance of both of these pillars, economic cycle and social cohesion, accountable. So because of its institutions, and we could maybe buy some certainty on the timing of the adjustment of the economic cycle with continuation, the scenario of continuity, but we would also sacrifice maybe social stability. And on the other hand, we can buy social appeasement and maybe relative peace, but at the cost of a likely delay in our adjustment to the business cycle due to some amount of uncertainty, right? But which, to my view, is likely to be temporary. So this is like the presentation I wanted to make, the first like introduction, so we could get to people's comments and approach them and try to make a fairly good analysis.
Okay, thank you, Jorge. Yeah, you basically said that we have strong basics in our economics and our political structure, and that's something that is difficult to change regarding the government that is going to have. That's something that you mentioned about these pillars that you had. I want to welcome some of the comments that we had. Welcome, Jess. Jess Barovsky is an expat that is living in Colombia. He said that, he says, I'm far from the expert. What I see is the majority of Colombians keep their wealth in their homes. Tiles, cities, stocks, Bitcoin is not something that many trust here in Colombia. I believe this will keep the real estate market stable. We may see less expats looking at property. We're a very small part of the marketplace. Well, that's being here in Colombia and also experience how it works, how is to have property and to manage property. It's value this point of view, and the idea is to keep the flow of foreign investment with the confidence and with the security that they can expect from the investment point of view. So let's see another of the questions that we had in the on the
What
on
was
the
the name of the person that asked the last question?
Jeff.
Jeff. Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yes,
I think
sorry,
I
Jeff.
agree with
Yes,
Jeff, and I wanted to mention actually that he says something about, well, people keeping their savings at home and not being very in the current wave of digitalization of finances, and that's actually true. And I wanted to mention that one of the challenges Colombia has to do with uh, credit access and educating people to in technology tools for financing activities for or finances activities that they can use so as to get a more wide coverage of these services and have people getting to or having the ability to access credit or to do transactions or to do make their own online business and so on. So this is something where we have a lot of a lot of road to develop still, and this is something that next governments are going to have to deal with too.
Okay. Do you think if this type of government different from, I mean, from the socialist style, will incentivize this kind of investment? Do you think?
I think it will in the extent that, as I said, these countries are going to, or emerging economies are going to become more attractive for investment, and you need to guarantee that the flux of investment is as pure or as less bureaucratic and monopolized as possible. And that is something we need to work on. And if we want to make the most out of what might be a next favorable stage of the economic cycle, commodities boom, as we are seeing with oil prices, then we need to make adjustments in this area.
Okay. Okay, let's check what are the things that many of the comments of people ask at the post we put in social groups, social
Right.
media groups. Patrick said, I work with a large foreign companies in relocating and opening offices. I know of two large companies that have put up projects that would employ thousands of people in upper and software and development company. Because with the, I mean, he refers about the uncertainty that would become of a socialist type of government. Uh, well, that's one of the major concerns regarding this type of policies, because we say, okay, the traditional way is to increase foreign investment to incentivize people to invest here. How do you see that regarding this the other? I mean, the socialist style that could be also elected.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to that slide that is on that conceptual map to argue that we no longer have socialist projects in the world, and certainly Colombia is not facing a socialist project in upcoming elections. I mean, socialism has been widely canceled in all over the world. We have experiences that are beyond mention here in the region. What we do have is these two pillars that in Colombia you need to balance, and that right now is is suffering quite a lot in the pillar of the social cohesion. And we also have an economic cycle that just hit at us, and we also had a pandemic, but that behaves in a cyclical pattern, and it will likely go back to benefit us in some way, as other emerging economies, and as I said, oil-driven currencies as ours. But you have social, this part of social cohesion, which you definitely need to approach. And in this sense, I would say that I know there is uncertainty, there always is, and of course, as I said, as one basic premise, when you face one political change as major and as significant as this, well, pre-electoral political noise and fears tend to get real strong, because it's not a shift that is common in
Yeah.
Colombia's electoral tendency. So
So, do you think I mean, it's not right to label like the right wing and the left wing like a socialist and like a capitalist exclusive?
Right, you're right. I don't think that you have that sort of dichotomy right now. Uh,
Either the government they have to balance these two type of things. Yeah,
yeah,
they can't let that the social uh, cohesion in terms of security, inequality be higher, or just focus in that part and let affect the economic cycle. Do you think that in this case the Petro candidate that to speak with a direct name shows that he will be balancing these two type of pillars?
well, I think it's one candidate that from, I mean, not the only one, but from the ones that are heading the election, is one that recognizes more strongly, or the most strongly, that Colombia has right now some deep social fragmentation that is perpetuating violence and conflict, and of course, drug trafficking and armed conflict, and all that comes along with social instability. We had in the last couple of years very, very violent uprising of people in the streets, very unhappy with the government. We had violence from both sides. So when you have this kind of social instability, and that works too for the rest of the world, the economic performance, of course, suffers. So what I would say is that in both scenarios, continuity or change, maintaining the rules of Colombia's legalistic and electoral tradition, and the kind of inevitable rules of the economic cycle, uh, we're going to have institutional guarantees for investment. What we do not have, or should take for granted, is the social fragmentation, or the social stability, rather, the social stability that a country needs to work well economically.
Okay. Yeah, and it led me up to another comment that is was curious. They said if Petro wins, the violence in the country will be so strong that real estate investment will be the last of their worries. That's well, it's some on the other side. They say that there is another point of view that says the same. If there is no change, how do you say, what the conformity what would be higher, and also violence could be an issue. But do you think it would be as big a big issue either one of the other sides, or what do you think?
Could you repeat the question, please?
That if well, this guy
Or the
that was
comment? Yeah, what I understood is what that economic performance would be the less of our worries if Petro
exactly
gets into government.
supposed to
But
be that would be higher the balance. But there are other points of view that say that also if the things keep remaining the same, or the same type of political uh, management would be also an inconformity and also increase the violence. So I think it's
yeah,
both,
yeah,
both.
yeah. That's actually correct. And to approach violence, you need first to see what social drivers or conflicts are going on. If you have high unemployment, if you have high inflation, if you have high inequality, if you have hunger, poverty, well, then violence, you're not going to solve violence just by changing a president or getting the army stronger. What I would say is, ultimately, if institutional instances remain as they have remained for almost more than 200 years, and the economic cycle is favorable, then people can say that they are going to run away or sell everything or back projects. But I don't think it will be worth the trouble of getting rid of everything and running away.
Okay.
But you do have people that, if they see insecurity is real high and it's not longer sustainable to live here anymore, or that they just got expelled out of their houses, well, you're gonna have people running away from the country by force.
Oh,
So you need to, as we said, you need to balance these two aspects.
okay. Okay. And then it's also regarding this type of concerns, what people say about that is going to be like, for example, he says that we're going to be like Venezuela. Yeah, I have Vanessa says, I was born in the US and my husband is British, American citizen. We have plans to retire in Medellin and Cartagena. However, uh, knowing the spirit that had a friend had in Venezuela, uh, we are worried about it. Will it happen to Colombia?
Well, I would say two things, so as not to get too like caught up in that discussion, because it is a complex one. You would need to know all of the uh, history of the 20th century in Venezuela. But what I would say is that political historical trajectory of Colombia has not been the same that of Venezuela. In Venezuela, you had institutional relative stability during the 20th century, but it was derived directly from the state and the figure of a chief or a chieftain, and this tendency allowed for uh, eventually one chieftain. That's the word for caudillo we use here to refer for people like Chavez or etc. It allowed him to manage to get into power, not democratically, not through democratic institutions, but and once in power, to dissolve economic institutions in the first decade of the 21st century, to make them his own shape, and to handle them the way so he could stick in power. And I actually want to show you this graphic that I also prepared for this kind of uh, of question. You have here that last commodity boom, high oil prices, that, well, signified a very high flow of dollars to the region, aligned with general growth in most countries, regardless of the political tendencies of the governments. So here you see that between 2002 and 2008, Colombia, Brazil, Chile, Peru, Venezuela, they all were increasing, and they were behaving economically very well, because they had this stage of the economic cycle on their favor. But if you do what Chavez did, uh, taking advantage of the fact that he got into power with a coup, and that United States wanted him to 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 get off power, and they couldn't do it. So he became this heroic figure, and meanwhile, oil dollars were coming at him like crazy, and he was changing institutions. Then, when the economic cycle reverts, and you have the decrease in price, this in this case particularly of oil, then you have this red line right here that shows that, well, you ruin up your country. Now the rules of the game are no longer
The same.
reliable, and you have now a major deficit, and you didn't industrialize your country, and productivity is at the floor. So I would say that, well, these are like some differences that we need to take into account when comparing Colombia to Venezuela.
Yeah, yeah. I also would say that we have a strong institutions. Let's say we have experience that no matter what, there is one type of figures, and we had experience when we changed the time of duration of an election period. So they changed to 8 years, because there was a popular figure. But at the end, all the other uh, parts of the country, the constitutional court and the Senate and all the things that started to change again, and not allowing to keep for more years, that it used to happen in Ecuador, for example, or well, Venezuela. So that is something that I would say that we have different type of a scenario. Also, the economic support that has Venezuela with the oil prices, that was something different. But yeah, it all depends of many things. But in the general matter, that we can face this type of threats with a strong institutionality. Let's say that.
Yeah, I would add one thing that regards the democratic tradition of Colombia that I talked about before here, and this is one thing that is like a theory in political science, but it works for a relative acceptable amount of countries. And when you have strong partisanship like Colombia has, both parties always running the strings of the political game through the state with regional networks that are very well established and that work very well, and relationships built in periods of time very long, and families that have been governed a lot of time. Then you have difficult, there is it's not so I mean, it's going to be really difficult to have a scenario of a dictatorship.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
to also to recognize a tradition like the one of Colombia that I'm describing does not mean to glorify it, as we have challenges that I mentioned.
Okay. There is a comment from Eddie. Uh, he says he thinks real estate will remain stable. However, if Petro wins, the peso will drop considerably. That's also another comment from Sebastian also, and they say that is one of the things that also will affect the devaluation of the peso. This is something that you also explain, having this in the part at the economics balance that have to do, and is something that is not also depending of Colombia. We have that this is a phenomenal international. No?
Well, yeah, you have major variables driving this, and thanks, Eddie, for allowing me to show this graph that I prepared too, and that I think is very eloquent. As I said, there is this implacable but silent force that drives most of the world economies, and that could show us which stage of the economic cycle we are in, and also what to expect of the behavior of our currency. So here, you see, as I said, the behavior of the dollar currency, the dollar rate in the world is like has this tendency of being like the mirror of the general macroeconomic behavior of Colombia. When you had the last contraction of U.S. economy and the dollar went real down, then we had this boom of commodities that made us have this period of growth. Then we have the major crisis in the late 90s, the 98, 99, 2000 crisis of in the construction, that nobody wanted to lend us money, and the country went into a recession as the economic cycle foresights. And then we had this again in 2002, 2008, as I mentioned. Again, the dollar went down and we had a period of peak. So now what we could infer from this is that maybe we have or dollar is reaching its peak, and consequently Colombia's currency very oiled or very determined by the price of oil and the behavior of oil in the global market, may may gain value, which means that it will not rise to 6,000 pesos for a dollar. So, and even it could decrease.
Yeah. So this basically is an international force that drives the economic the economics of Colombia, of the local economy. It's
Yeah,
not because there is one government or one another policy, because at the end we are not isolated, and even the most I think extreme governments depends from another economies. And well, they say if they're not the U.S. depending, they depend from Russia or China. So at the end, the dollar keeps as the strongest currency in the world, no matter
yeah,
what the yuan and the Chinese currencies is getting also a strong in some economies.
yeah. So
So
yeah, the change in the economic global cycle at this point would most likely benefit emerging economies, including Colombia. So I would argue otherwise from the comment. Of course, nothing is settled and nothing is said. But this tendency would actually make Colombia an attractive place to invest, because we have been getting cheaper in this last stage. And when the flux of global investment reorganizes, this could be very favorable to us.
okay. Okay, I have Terry wrote that I want to buy a home in Colombia and retire. I just don't want my home confiscated by a socialist government. Is that possible? I think we exposed it also previously, saying that well, it's not well. This label of socialist government is no longer or is not the type of government that would rule in the case of Petro as the main type of policy. Just you mentioned that before, no?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, well, currently say world financial markets and currency about to do backflips. Probable reactions after that. That's something that we also spoke just before, saying that well, international bank. I mean, the U.S. economy keeps also affecting our markets. However, I think we, as developing markets, we will have opportunities as well. And someone said that maybe if the peso gets stronger, also would be interest for an investment. I don't know. What do you think about?
Yeah, I think as I said, we probably will have in the next 4 years, or in the next, maybe not 4 years, in the next 15 years, we could have the economic cycle on our side because of the behavior of commodity prices and mainly oil. So we're going to have a window to get the most out of the revenues this gets us. And in the meantime, we're going to be very aware of holding accountable the government and the respect for the traditional institutions, such as private property, such as the Colombian Constitution, the 1991 Constitution. And this is something that civil society is very aware of.
Okay. Yeah. So do you really think that this is a part of the structure of the program in order to that if it is let's say progressive type of government, they are interested also in having this I mean in keeping that the economy works well in order to accomplish their plans, their government plans That's basically it.
Definitely. Yeah, companies need investment in order to compete. And if competitivity is low between companies, then really you're not going to get the most out of the boom, the commodities boom, and then you will have a really damaged uh, industrial like construct. You're going to have some very downside productivity, and well, your country's going to suffer if you ruin institutions like Venezuela did, or Argentina maybe arguably too did. Well, you we're going to suffer as a country.
Okay, David Valego says, how do you think his plan of ending oil exploration and fracking will impact the economy? That's something that also comment a lot of people that he has said, Petro has said that he will stop doing more explorations.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and that is linked to what I was just saying. That we're going to have a period of commodity boom, and that most definitely the government will want to take advantage of it, and because as I said, we have some fiscal necessities, some tax necessities, and spending necessities that every government would needs to attend. And if it wants to be successful by any means, it needs to, well, get more income, and so it can spend more. And the stage of the economic cycle definitely is favorable for this, but really you're going to have maybe the last commodity boom in for of oil prices, maybe for emerging economies, because the world is transitioning into a different model. And yeah, we're going I mean we should definitely use the next decade to make this transition. So I think, yeah, you could say Colombia is going to enter a period of economic reforms that will not only be in the next government, but they are needed in order to maintain the pillars of its democratic tradition and the features of its economic profile.
Okay, yeah, and that's something that is already happening, and maybe
Right.
it's not a lot portrayed in media because I mean, also again with these political things that and it's something that is not maybe recognized enough with this current government because we see that they are doing a lot of things to make this transition. They open also the I mean the bids for solar plants for aeolic plants also at the north of the country to have the advantage of doing this and that's also will help to do this transition, no? And
Right.
I think it's also I think the whether the government even better wouldn't kill the golden chicken eggs
Yeah. Yeah,
because
that's right. That's right. But as I said, development and economic growth for Colombia, and I think that that's a lesson that any government that is in office uh, needs to learn, or is will ultimately learn. Uh, Economic growth in the long term for Colombia requires it to become less dependent on international political, economic volatility, as it has been in these two last recession periods that are shown in the slide. And that calls for definitely an economic transition that is uh, already going on.
okay. Okay, okay, we're reaching the hour of this presentation. We have covered most of the concerns about what is going to happen with private property, what is going to happen with with prices of the commodities, if we're going to depend also of oil or not. what is going to happen also with the social cohesion that you mentioned, the social stability of the country, what would be. And I said in this part, I want to add that we always have been, unfortunately, we are being in this with these problems from all along many time
Long
ago
time.
with guerrillas, with paramilitaries, with drug trafficking. That's one that keeps remaining one of the main issues. Well, you said also the immigration to the cities is also a problem. The violence in the countryside. These are issues that we will keep having. And well, we also covered that it would people maybe is afraid that it's going to be like increase whether there is one or other side, but at the end it depends also of authority. And I think in this part we also have a strong military forces and security that depends of the government to try to keep the balance, not to repress that something happened, but crime and all other issues will be a fact that we will have in the country. But at the end, economic or basic facts of the economy keep strong. Unfortunately, no matter what all these experience, let's say, we were having in the last year. Let's see what other increase we have. We talk about the world financial markets and currencies. Okay, we also okay. Jess also posted that an initial reaction will tell us the future result. Is logical that we see some movement right now. My own thoughts are that Colombia is strong enough to survive Petro. That's one of the questions. And yeah, I think is no matter what is the type of government, I also a positive guy, and also that think that every goes for the I mean for the people. Yeah, the people are the ones that drive the hardworking people. We in Colombians are hardworking people. Uh, I mean, we have like the two extremes again. Huh? There, as long as there are people that are not contributing to or are also uh, destroying. Yeah, yeah, our other side and many other side that that are constructing, and I think this is also we are, the people is the one that carries all the day-to-day things of the economy, and that's the other thing that we have to show to foreigners that also are linked to Colombia because they are family, are related, they love the country, and that's the idea of this presentation, to have enough information and see that we what can we expect, what are the real facts, what is the international economy, and to have this information more clear, and at the end have each one their own conclusions. No, so well, I think we don't have any other question. I think we covered many of the increase. I want to thank the people who joined. We will have this presentation recorded on our group. We also have in our YouTube channel. If you want to see the entire presentation, we will have it recorded in our YouTube channel. And thank you again for being and to Harlem. I wanted to show that where you as young people that also are starting to enter to this market and facing all the things that we have to face day to day, have your own point of view. So thank you again, and we will keep making this type of forums or presentations in order to have clarity, basically for foreigners that wants to invest and basically in the real estate industry. So we'll see you, and thank you for
Thank
listening.
you, thank you. This was very very valuable exercise. Thank you, and thank you to all the people that joined and comment. Hope we could give some impressions of value.
Okay. Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.